to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, a few days ago, we, well, I think it was just before the new year actually, we did a Thermo Sudoku by Akash Doulani, in which Akash had managed to put the number 2019 into the grid. And here, and he actually published this on the 1st of January. Look, he's got 2020 in the grid. So I've been holding this back because I didn't want to do two puzzles by the same setter so soon, but it seems it would be wrong to wait too long before showcasing this. It's a lovely, lovely idea, and we're going to have a look at this in a moment. But just a quick plug for our Instagram Cracking the Cryptic account. Those of you interested in the crosswords, we're doing a clue a day. And today's cryptic crossword clue of the day from the Times is an absolute stunner. And I'm just going to share it with you. Even those of you who don't like cryptic crosswords or don't know about them might appreciate this. Let's have a look. This was the clue from today's Times. Strike a pose and rise to speak, for example. And what you had to realise to solve this clue is that strike a pose is an anagram of rise to speak. So the answer here is anagrams. They are anagrams of each other. And I published this on Twitter earlier on, and we had one reply, which is a quite unbelievable clue. This one. What cinema promotes is of some importance. And even if you've just solved this one and understood it, it's not actually that easy to see that this is exactly the same idea, but it's so beautifully phrased. So here, what cinema promotes is of some importance. Well, cinema promotes is an anagram of the letters some importance. How clever is that? Oh, absolutely love that. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Now let's go back to Sudoku. So here's the puzzle. Now let's remind ourselves of the rules of Thermo Sudoku. Basically, along the thermometers, the bulb end must be the smallest number, and the numbers must increase as you move along the thermometers. So that's all we know, and apparently we're going to be able to solve the puzzle uniquely. Now do have a go at this if you have time. You can click on the link under the video. That'll take you to our web page where you should see something like this, and you can play on whichever device takes your fancy. With that, let me have a look at how to solve it. Now the obvious places to start are these 9-cell thermometers. A 9-cell thermometer, obviously that's going to have to be that. So will this, so let's get that in the grid and see what that reveals to us. Well, it reveals a bit more, doesn't it? Those 4s are going to place a 4 up at the top. This has got to be 7, 8, 9. Let's just tidy up the pencil marks. These have got to be 5 and 6, therefore. These have got to be 1 and 2 because of the 1s and 2s. Therefore, this has got to be 7 and 8. That's got to be a 9. And that should be a 3. So we're off and running. We've got a lot of information in straight away. And this might, I don't know how difficult this puzzle is. I'm only going on some of the comments online which said that this puzzle is more difficult than the 2019 puzzle. But so far, we seem to be flying along. Now, what can we do next? Now we can place a 1 in this box. Have a look and see if you can see how to do that. It's good practice, this, on Thermo Sudoku. The trick is to realise this 1 at the top has quite a profound effect on the bottom box, because we can never place a 1 partially along a thermometer, because if a 1 is on a thermometer, it must axiomatically be the lowest number, so it must be in the bulb. So, if we know there's no 1 in those 3 squares, we also know there's no 1 in these 3 squares. The 1 must be on the right hand side, and now we can rule out 1s from those squares in this box, and we can't put a 1 partially on the thermometer in that box. So that gives us another digit. What next? Sevens and 8s. 9. 9 is a little bit restricted, look, because we can do the same thing with the 1 down here. It works the same way. We can't put a 9 partially along a thermometer, so we know the 9 is on the left hand side of this box down here. So let's pencil mark that in, and that obviously is going to place a 9 at the top there, which means we actually get an 8 and a 7 as well. Now we know that there is a 7 on this thermometer now, and we have to be a little bit careful about where we put this, because there's 8s here as well, look. So the 8 is over here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. The 8 is over on this side. So now, where can we put the 7? We certainly can't have the 7 here, because then that square would have to be a 10. We can't have the 7 here, because then this square would have to be an 8. So in fact the 7 must go there, I think. And then, as we know this square can't be an 8, it must be a 9. We get another digit. Now in this box, where can we place a 9? We can't have a 9 in those 3 squares. We can't have a 9 in those or those. So the 9 must be in one of these positions. And therefore the 9 in the central box must be in one of these 2 squares. And that's because of that right-hand 9 there. Now, what next? Looking at these 2 9s and this box on the... We can't have a 9 in either of those squares, so the 9 here must be in one of those 2 positions. And that's good. That locks the 9 into one of these 3 squares, but this 9 forces the 9 onto the thermometer, and that's all we need to know. Once the 9's on the thermometer, it has to be in the top position. So, what should we look at next? Let's check this column, look, because, well, in fact we can fill in this column because everything is on the thermometer. So we know we need to place 3, 4 and 6, so they have to be ascending like that. This therefore has to be a 2 because it can't be a 1. These squares have got to be 4, 5 and 6, so again we can place more digits. So far we're doing quite well. 1, 2 and 8 here. These 2 squares have got to be 3 and 5. Okay. This square looks restricted to me. So why have I picked that square? Now the reason is all I'm doing is I'm comparing rows and columns, and I've noticed that the 2 and the 3 here are not appearing among the 4 digits I've already got in column 2. So this square is going to be restricted. Let's have a think about what's left. What can it be without considering the thermometer for a moment? It can be a 4 or 5 or an 8. Now obviously it can't be an 8 because that would mean this square would have no value. So it must be a 4 or a 5. This square, therefore, if this was a 4, this could be a 5. It can never be a 6 or a 7, so this square has to be a 5 or an 8. That's more restricted than I was expecting. And this square, obviously it can't be a 1, and it can't be a 4, and it must be lower than a 4 or a 5. So this square is a 2 or a 3. Okay. Now I see. I think we're going to get a restriction here because look, this thermometer can't be a 7, 8 or a 9. So let's have a... What are the options? This square here can be a... It can be a 1 or a 2. Now it can never actually be a 5, can it? Because if it's a 5, we are not going to be able to put 2 digits in here that are less than 7, 8, 9. So that square is a 1 or a 2. And now this square, well, this square cannot be a 2 if this was a 1. So this has to be 3, 4 can't be 5, it can be 6. And it can't be 6 because if it's a 6 that would be a 7, 8 or 9. So this has to be a 3 or a 4. 6, 7, and then we know that because of the 6, 7, 8 and 9 this square must be less than 6. So that can be 5. And if this is a 3 that can be 4. And there we go, look, 4, 5 pair. Ooh, nice. So that means this square can't be a 4 anymore. That's got to be a 3. Therefore, this has to be a 2. Now, let's look at 3s for a minute because we've got 3s here and here. Now, the 3 cannot be this far along a thermometer. So the 3 is locked into one of these two squares. Let's do the same thing. 2s are a little bit more restricted. Look, we can put a 2 anywhere along that line. But now we've effectively got 7 digits along column 2 because of these two being a 4 and a 5. So that's got to be an 8, can't be a 5 anymore, and this is going to have to be a 3. That can't be an 8 now. And okay, so what do we do next? 2, 4. So there must be a 4 in one of these two positions, and that's from this 4 and this pair in this box here. Obviously this can't be a 4 because of the 4 on the right hand side. Now if this was a 4, this thermometer would start to get quite large quite quickly. That could be 5, 6, 7. So this would have to be an 8 or a 9. It can't be a 9. So if this is a 4, the thermometer is completely fixed. It has to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now is there anything preventing that? Bobbins is the euphemistic expression. No, there is nothing preventing that. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is possible, or this can be a 1, obviously. So this is a 1 or a 4. So 5, 6, 7, 8. If this is a 1, this can't be a 3 or a 4, so it would have to be a 2 or a 5. That's the only options. So that square is more restricted than I was expecting. And if this is a 2, this can't be 3, 4, but this could be 5. Huh. So actually, these squares are relatively restricted. I think these are the only options along this thermometer. But unfortunately, a 1 can still go in 2 positions in column 4. So we're not going to be able to disambiguate anything there. So what am I meant to do next? Must be an 8 in one of these two squares because of these 8s. Well, that's interesting. I've just noticed. If we look at this column, in fact, let's look at these 3 squares, or these 6 squares in column 4. Now, there is no 5. So the 5 is locked down here in this column, which I'm wondering whether this restricts this thermometer. This is the only thermometer we haven't used yet. So let's have a look at this. So this square, let's start with the bulb. This can be a 1 or a 2, can't be a 3, can be a 4, can't be a 5, we know the 5's here. If it's a 6, that doesn't work. If it's a 6, this would have to be 7, 8, 9, and you can see here, this 8 prevents that from being an 8. So this is a bit restricted. And if this is a 4, again, we can't put a 7 in this square. So if this is a 4, oh, that's good. No, if this is a 4, this can't be a 5. The 5 is over here. This can't be a 4 either. Ooh. Now we've got a 1-2 pair in this column. That means that's not a 2, but the 2 could still be in either of those squares. And, oh, what have I done there? Go away. I just want to delete the pencil mark too. There we are. So how does that matter? This square now can't be a 2. But it can be a 3, I think. Is there a reason this can't be a 3? There might be, I'm not seeing it. It could be a 4, there's nothing preventing it. It can't be a 5. Ah, it can't be a 5 or a 6. 5 for this reason, 6 for this reason. And if it's a 7, that's an 8. So this square is very restricted. Yes, and that gives us a digit. Yes, it does. It gives us a digit. So again, focus on this square, the contents of this square, and see if you can spot the next easy win from the puzzle. And the critical thing here is to realise that now there's only one position a 3 can go in row 7 of the grid. We've got this 3 here. We've just, if this can only be a 3 or a 4, this can never be a 3 now. So none of those squares can be 3. And in this line, only that square can be a 3. So that gives us another digit. We get a 3 here and a 5 here. The 5 is good. That gives us a 2 there. That means this must be a 1 and this must be a 4. Now this is an 8 because we have a 1 and a 2 in the row already. A 1-2 pair now over there, look. So these must be 5, 6 and 8. This square has to be a 5 or a 6 because there's an 8 there. Maybe I need to have a look further up this thermometer, but let's just see what else we can get in terms of easy wins here. We need 6, 7 and 9 into these 3 squares. 2, 6, 7, 9. That can't be 9, obviously, because we know the 9 is up here and there's a 9 there already. So this is a 6 or a 7. And along row 8 of the grid, we need 3, 4 and 7. 7 here means there's a 7 in one of those 2 squares. This square though, look, the 3, 4, 3, 4, this square has to be a 3 or a 4, because these must be a 3, 4 pair. So the 7 is here. This is not 7. This is 3 or 4. This is 7 over on the left hand side. As that none of those squares can be 7, now we know the 7 is in here along with the 9, so there's no longer a possibility for there to be a 6 here. That must be in this square, which makes this a 5. This square now has to be a 2, that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 5, and I think we may now be on the home straight. We need 1, 6 and 8 into these squares. Let's just fill that in and see if we can eliminate anything down. 6, 8, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. 7 here means this is an 8 or a 9. But better than that, the 7 interacts with the 7, 8 pair at the top, which I should have spotted. So this can't be an 8, this has to be a 9. Therefore that's a 9, that's a 7, that fixes this one to be a 6, resolves the 6 and the 5, resolves the 5 and the 4. Must be a 4 in one of those 2 squares now. 2, 7, 8 is still possible there. But no, we've got 5, 6 here, so that's 8, that's 7. This can't be 5, this has to be a 6, doesn't it? It's got to be a 1. That fixes the 1 and the 2 at the top. This must be a 1 now because of the 1s here and here. That's a 6. This is an 8. This is a 1. And I think we're done. Let's just make sure, or I will try and make sure I don't make any silly mistakes in the final stages. I need to put a 5 in one of these squares. And we know that this is the only position for a 2 left, don't we? So that's a 2, that's a 4, 4 and 3, 3 and 5, 5 and 6, check. Yes, lovely puzzle. It's just a gorgeous idea again from Akash, and to execute it with that amount of aplomb, you know, a stunning setting. That's what you get on Cracking the Cryptic. And come back tomorrow for another video.